Not many wives would be thrilled at the idea of a two-family home, especially if the mother-in-law happens to be a monster. In my case, both my mother-in-law Olivia and my husband Mason left me no other choice but a two-family home. What's worse, they have been cooking up an outrageous plan without my knowledge. I'll crush that plan. Just watch. I'm Emily, a 35-year-old living in a reasonably bustling city. Mason, 38, works at a mid-sized company and we don't have children. We live in a rented apartment, which is both poorly built and has the unfortunate characteristic of resonating with every thud because Mason, who stands 5.47 feet tall, weighs more than 176 pounds, and has a precarious physique. As a result, we've been on the receiving end of complaints from our neighbors on both sides and below multiple times. Each time we receive complaints, we apologize and I tell Mason he needs to lose weight. However, Mason responds, "I'm tired when I get home from work, don't talk to me about this." And he continues stomping around in anger, causing more noise. I've suggested to Mason more than once that we move into a well-soundproofed apartment building or rent a detached house, but he was never enthusiastic about the idea, citing convenient access to his office and his preference for being a 10-minute drive away from the city center. Then one evening, a slightly intimidating young man from downstairs came to complain loudly again. As I was bowing my head in apology, Mason, who was drunk, suddenly poked his head out of the living room and yelled at the young man, "You're the one who's being noisy!" As a result, Mason, who looked like he was used to fighting, was beaten up by the young man, and I was forced to deeply apologize. "Why are you apologizing? The fault lies with him, right?" After the man left, Mason kept yelling, but while I was treating his injuries, he sobered up and suddenly said, "Maybe we should leave this place." I seized this opportunity and started looking for alternatives the next day. Our primary desire was to purchase a detached house, but we both have student loan repayments from college, and it was a stretch to afford any property in an area that meets Mason's requirements. Even renting a house about 30 years old would cost over $100,000 a month, which was still a squeeze. While we were racking our brains, a call suddenly came from Olivia.
"I heard from Mason. Leave that place with dangerous people right away."
I was annoyed that Mason had shared unnecessary details with her. Olivia is a control freak and always sides with Mason more than me. Before marriage, I worked for a relatively large company and received a salary almost equal to Mason's, but she ordered me, "Don't be impudent, just because you're a woman. When you get married, cut back on work and take good care of my son." Even Mason agreed with that, so now I'm a part-timer doing clerical work from home for that company. My salary has dropped to less than a third, and when Olivia found out, she seemed satisfied, saying, "That's good." It was frustrating. Now I wondered what she was going to say this time, and I replied with trepidation, "Yes, I also think we should move, but we haven't been able to find a good place yet." Then, as expected, she blurted out an outrageous suggestion.
"What are you talking about? Why don't you just live with us?"
I was going to refuse, but her words,
"Mason is in full agreement. Come out for this weekend, let's discuss the details,"
left me speechless. Hold on, Mason didn't mention anything about this to me. Caught off guard, Olivia left me with a,
"So we'll meet next Saturday at 10 a.m. I'll be waiting,"
before abruptly ending the call. I quickly shot off an email to Mason but received no reply. I tried calling him around the time he'd leave the office, but no answer. He got home around 11 p.m., clearly tipsy. "Hey, did you not read my email?" As I blurted out in frustration, he replied, "What's the big deal? We're getting to live in a brand new house, what's not to like?" Wait, you mean your parents' house? The one that's over 40 years old and starting to fall apart? "Oh, didn't Mom tell you? They're building a new two-family house." What? I wasn't told about this. "Dad's putting down the deposit, so we're covering the rest. We're taking out the mortgage together in both of our names." Wait, what do you mean we're covering the rest? Apparently Mason had been at his parents' place discussing the mortgage with them. They went ahead without consulting me, his wife. "According to the estimate, our monthly payment is going to be a bit over $100,000. That's only about $30,000 more than our current rent." That extra $30,000 is quite significant. Where does he plan on finding that money? I held my head in my hands. Once Olivia and Mason decide on something, there's no changing their minds. "If you take on more work from home, we can easily cover that $30,000, right?" My job mainly involves data entry. It's part-time, and I only get paid if there's work. It's not like jobs will just come pouring in just because I want to earn more. I've explained my work situation to him several times, but he just doesn't seem to get it. And if he knows how much the monthly payment would be, it means the plan has moved along quite a bit. Even though he has been so opposed to moving, I find it strange that he suddenly wants to move back to his parents' place. The conflict with the man living downstairs is definitely a factor, but it bothers me that he agreed so easily to a plan where we have to cover most of the cost for a two-family home. I had a bad feeling about this, and I was scared to visit his parents over the weekend. When we did go, Olivia was all smiles saying, "Let's live in a two-family house together. I've even invited a sales rep." And sure enough, she'd arranged for a salesperson from a major home builder to be there. The man spread the blueprint in front of me and started explaining the 3 types of two-family houses. The separate type, where everything from the kitchen to the bathroom is duplicated. The shared type, where only some parts are shared between the 2 families. And the integrated type, where all living spaces are shared. Of course, I would prefer either the separate or shared type, but Olivia and Mason were in favor of the integrated type. It's better for us to live together, don't you think? And the construction cost can be significantly reduced. While it's nice to save on construction costs, I have no desire, let alone ability, to live closely with Olivia. Besides, the integrated type is more convenient for raising kids, right? I'll be there to help. Raising kids? After trying for several years, we had given up on having children. I'd explained this to Olivia. Why was she talking about raising kids? Something was definitely off. Seeing my stunned silence, Mason hastily added, No, it's just in case we have kids in the future," he stuttered, trying to deflect the issue. I can't deny the possibility, and living with in-laws can be convenient when raising kids, but before deciding whether to move into a multi-family home, there was a significant problem with this potential home. The mobile phone signal was terrible. Call drops, lots of static, it was a mess. The issue seemed to stem from the house being surrounded by tall buildings. Plus, there was an old rumor floating around about the harm mobile phone signals can cause to the human body. Despite knowing that today's phones are produced under stringent safety standards, Olivia stubbornly held on to that old wives' tale, refusing to do anything about improving the signal. But that was a problem. My work involves taking orders and questions via my mobile phone, often at the 11th hour, scrambling to meet deadlines. My mobile phone is company provided and they take care of the bills. One task could involve a call lasting nearly 30 minutes, so using a landline because of a poor mobile signal could add up in call charges. Unfortunately, neither Olivia nor Mason understood the gravity of the situation. They rarely used their mobile phones at home, so they couldn't see why it was a big deal. But I couldn't let this slide. Listen, if we move here, I can't do my job. If I can't work, we can't pay off our mortgage. I don't think we can live here after all. I pleaded to Mason. He sighed dismissively. The multifamily home we were planning to build was to be in both Mason and I's names, with both of us responsible for the mortgage payments. Mason claimed it was for a larger tax break from the mortgage deduction. In reality, there was another reason. I was taken aback that he'd made this decision without me, but if I didn't agree, we couldn't go through with it. Ignoring Mason's sigh, I stood my ground and managed to postpone the decision. I was secretly hoping the whole thing would be scrapped. Working in an area with poor mobile coverage was impossible, and I wanted to avoid living with Olivia at all costs. But against my wishes, Olivia and Mason continued planning. The in-laws' room would be a sunny second-floor one. They'd install an elevator, considering possible future needs for caregiving and wheelchair accessibility. The kitchen, bathroom, and toilet would all be on the first floor. Wait, an elevator? A quick search revealed a home elevator could cost between $3 to $4 million. Claiming the sunny second floor for themselves and placing the kitchen, toilet, and bath on the first floor meant they'd use the elevator multiple times a day, increasing our electricity bill and yearly maintenance costs. And I couldn't see the in-laws covering those costs. When I asked Mason about it, he said, "We'll use it too, so let's split the costs." Why does he always disregard my feelings? When I started giving Mason the cold shoulder, his already late return home became even later. At first, I assumed he was spending time at his parents' place, but a phone call revealed that wasn't the case. Olivia continued her daily ambushes at our home. "Why are you so against this? Are you determined to refuse to live with us?" "That's right. Once we have kids, they can help look after them." "I've told you numerous times, without a proper mobile signal, I can't work, and there are other issues too." I was determined not to lose. I resisted Olivia and Mason's persistent pushing. Suddenly, Olivia went to the kitchen, returned with a bowl full of water, and my gut began to twist with dread. I watched her, sensing trouble. Marching straight into my room, she shouted, "Well, I'll show you," and flung the water over the computer I use for work. Then turning to me, still frozen in shock, she said, "Can't do your input job without a computer, right? Look for another job here. Just sign the contract already." Pushing Olivia aside, I rushed to my computer, but it was too late. It was completely dead. What has she done? I glared at Olivia and said, "This is my company-issued computer, a new one purchased just for me. It cost over $150,000. What are you going to do about it?" Suddenly, Olivia turned pale. What? I just stumbled a little and the water splashed on it. I didn't know anything about that," she blurted out, attempting to flee the scene. I caught hold of Olivia, turned to Mason, and flashed the divorce papers at him with a smile. Let's just get divorced already. Living with Olivia is the worst. It would be so much better to get divorced right now. I had never brought up divorce before, so both Mason and Olivia were shocked. Hold on! This is so sudden! We haven't even signed the contract yet! Oh, so you're saying it's okay to divorce after signing the contract? No, that's not what I cut off Mason's faltering response. I already know everything. You plan to co-own the house, make me pay half the mortgage, and then divorce me, didn't you? How did you know that? Chloe called me. At the mention of the name Chloe, Mason turned as pale as a ghost. Yes, your dear, sweet Chloe called me. She pleaded with me to break up with you quickly. You see, Mason was cheating on me with a young woman named Chloe, and she was pregnant. According to her, Mason promised to divorce me, live with her, and move into a brand new 2-family house. He even told her that they could dump all childcare responsibilities on Olivia. Did she tell you all that? In the face of a flustered Mason, I continued, no wonder you wanted to co-own the house. If we co-own the property and each take our separate loans, even after a divorce, I would still have to pay off the loan I took. One tricky thing about joint mortgages is that if the named parties divorce, neither party's payments are exempted. Moreover, a mortgage is exempt from asset division, meaning even though my payments might be offset somewhat by alimony, they will not be zeroed out. After explaining this, I turned to Olivia, who was averting her eyes, and said, It's Emily's fault for not having a grandchild. Just as I thought, Olivia was aware of Chloe and the child and was trying to welcome them into this home. Oh, so it's all my fault, huh? But you rushed to contract the 2-family house loan before the divorce because it would be troublesome if we got divorced before, right? At that point, both Olivia and Mason bit their lips and looked down. I held the divorce papers out in front of Mason and said, If you say you're not divorcing, you can't marry Chloe. She told me she's terminating her apartment lease at the end of the month. She's ready to move into your parents' house as soon as possible and put in her orders for the 2-family home. If I don't divorce you, I'll stay in the apartment that's in your name, and your mistress will comfortably settle into your parents' house. Money will be tight, and your reputation will suffer, won't it? After I said all that, the two of them started to panic, and in the end, Mason reluctantly signed the divorce papers. I kept quiet about Chloe saying, I'm going to stick that old hag in the sunless ground floor. I mean, it's all good, right? I heard from the neighbors what happened afterwards. After divorcing me, Mason married Chloe, but due to her strong opposition, they ended up not building the 2-family house. But of course, there was no way the young Chloe could bear to live in his old house that's over 40 years old, and Olivia, burdened with the baby, was grumbling nonstop. Every day saw a battle between Olivia and Chloe, and eventually Chloe took the child and left. I heard Mason is now sleepless at night, worrying about the compensation and asset division from our divorce lawsuit, living expenses claimed by Chloe during their separation, the impending divorce lawsuit from her, and the child support that he will likely have to pay. Chloe, on the other hand, is impatient about the compensation claim from their divorce lawsuit, and seems to be pressuring Mason to pay. And Olivia, who destroyed my company-issued computer by splashing water on it, intends to have Mason cover the compensation as well. Lately, there seems to be a car with the real estate agency logo parked often at the in-laws, so they're probably going to sell the house. My deepest condolences. Right now, I'm temporarily returned to my parents' house, changed from part-time to full-time at work, and I'm working hard. I've recently become close to a male colleague who is divorced with a child, and we are gradually getting to know his child. I am dreaming of becoming a family of 3 someday.